Guys and girls, the good news is we can see the finish line. The narrative's changing. We're opening up. We're going to start seeing things with less restrictions. The weather's getting warmer wherever you are around the world right now. Good is on its way. And I'm pleased to also hear even the great Daniel Andrews is beginning to realize that he's not going to get zero infections and that he might as well open up. That's great news. Again, a big, we're thinking of you, Melbourne agents. 215 days of lockdown, no private inspections, no listing presentations. My friends, the hardest lockdown in the world, 17 weeks in a row, again for the last 2 months. It's going to continue for a little bit longer. But I want to remind Trevor Bowen, good to see you. Trevor, thank you for the wonderful fire hat you gave me. I want to remind everyone in Melbourne, just think about this. A certain number of properties have to get sold every 12 months. So you miss these few months, they move on to the next period. It's just that you'll make a lot more in that next period. Please remember that. Don't become defeated. Don't become a victim. If you are in a hole, start slowly digging out. You got to get a launch list ready. You got to start getting ready. Things are going to open up. I want you to open up with stock. How do you open up with stock? You pick up the damn phone and you show that you care and you're relevant to people, and you got to let them know. When Daniel Andrews and when Gladys Berejiklian start giving us the clear open, you want to tell your vendors, Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, let's prepare now, launch later. Let's have a green head start over everyone. When that gun goes off, we need a 2-3 week advantage. Let's lock everyone away. Photographers, videographers, let's book in your open home time. Let's make sure that you're on the market 3 weeks without too many other competitor stock on there. That's how we're going to get you top dollar. And if you're lucky, we might time this. Sell high, buy low. You might buy low in November, December. Taney says 2.5 weeks away. Guys and girls, good to see you. Steve Micheski, good to see you. Nia, Con. Guys and girls, big thank you to the people that support me, and I support them, hand-pick them, pick the best of the best. Agent Box, Campaign Agent, Secure Exchange, Before You Bid, and of course, Real Hub. Guys and girls, Johnny Manis, Adam Noakes, good to see you all. And in addition, let's have some perspective. A big shout out to every person right now, every person who is in a cancer ward going through treatment. We hear you. We understand you. I particularly know what you're going through. And let me give you some data. 50,000 deaths a year in cancer. Many of them are 5-year-olds. 50,000 deaths a year in cancer. 150,000 a year. Hey, Mark Saleh. 150,000 a year, every year, diagnosis of cancer. So yes, COVID is real. There are people on ventilators. There are people that's sick. We know that. But we also know that it's less than 1,000, I believe, that have died since the pandemic began in Australia. And I also want everyone to know to not get electrified and not get terrified every time at 11 o'clock or 10:30 or 11:30 when your premier gets up and starts talking telephone numbers of infections. Please remember, those telephone numbers, only a very, very, very small amount of people are going to progress to actually die. So you need to have that in your head. And also big shout out to New Zealand, because I know that they're also in a very serious lockdown. But this today, my friends, is about Father's Day. Father's Day. From a dysfunctional father, very dysfunctional father. And what I'm going to talk to you about is Three lessons that I have taught my daughters and I keep preaching to my daughters, and three lessons that my daughters have taught me. So let's get the show on the road. Hello, Tina, Ben Matthews. As David Kiesenkamp says, what do we got there, my friends? How many? Hi, Sophie, as well. David, we're talking here. What do we got here? Let's bring some of the stuff in here, right? Hello from Auckland. Good to see you, David. It was great seeing you. What do we got here? Cancer, suicide blows away. I've got to tell you, as someone that has to have a routine test for my own past history, it's been cancelled twice. Don't go to the hospital. Don't come into the hospital. We're worried about COVID. Oh, man, getting really worried about some of these cancer diagnosed stages. They're going to go from stage 1 to stage 2. And I've got to tell you, cancer is very simple. Fix it when it's small. Fix it when it's early. We're losing those opportunities at the moment. Good to see you, Marky Novak. Good to see you, my friends. There, who else have we got in here? When you're down in the UK, no headphone, quiet space. Beautiful. Good to see you. So, guys and girls, how do we get rid there? Ben, beautiful. Ben's decided to speak some Greek. Good to see you. Claristo for coming on Father's Day, Tom. Beautiful. Thank you for appreciating it. So let's have a look at this. Let's have a look at this, my friends. In fact, let me get rid of that banner. We don't need that banner there. We got the comments coming in. So let's start the show, guys and girls. Yes, we had a great, I've got to tell you, the weeks are just getting, I've got to tell you, even though we've been in this lockdown, I have not been busier. 13, 14 options. Next week, I think there's 19 on a Saturday. The weeks between coaching sessions, webinars. Last week, I would have presented to a total of 5,000 agents. Never been busier. But enough bragging. Let's talk about 3 things my daughters have taught me. Let's go. The first thing, got two daughters, Madeline and Christina. So let's talk about the lessons that they've taught me. Lesson number 1 that my daughters have taught me is drop the tech. You know what? For me, the mobile phone, it's a lifeline. It's my Facebook. It's my social media platforms. It's my SMS. It's my calendar. It's my emails. And you know what? It's just my lifeline. It's an extension of me. But I've got to tell you, I feel so damn guilty when I'm looking at it. It's one of the worst things I do. I feel so damn guilty when I'm ignoring them and I'm sort of fixated on sending that text message that I feel I've got to get to. And I've got to tell you, one of the things I've learned is drop the tech. Drop the tech, right? And I've got better at it. It's a work in progress. Lesson number 2 I've learned from my girls is this. Yes, ambitious dentist. My brother did have cancer as well. He had a different cancer. I went and visited my brother like I do most Sundays. I went and visited him today. And I have to tell you, as I look out at that cemetery, you know what? It's cancer, heart attacks, suicides. That's what's on that graveyard. Guys and girls, the second thing my daughters have taught me is this. They've taught me not to forget about my dreams because it's really easy. My friends, my brothers and sisters, it's really easy to actually just start living everyone else's life. And I want to let you know, you need to have your own life as well. And for many of you who've reached out to me over the last few weeks during this lockdown where you've lost yourself completely, I've got to say to you, you need to have your own life. You can't live your life through your kids. It becomes a life that you have nothing to look forward to because all you're doing is basically have said, no, I don't exist. And I've got to tell you, your kids will love you more for it because they want to see someone that is, no, Susan. Lesson number 2 is not stop comparing yourself to others. That's not the lesson there. The lesson is, don't forget your own dreams. When you're a father, when you're a mother, right? I want to let you know that you still need to have things that excite you, 1 year, 3 year, 5 year goals that don't necessarily include that your role as a father. So that's the second thing I've learned. And the third thing I've learned is this. I've learned by teaching my kids to be better people, I become a better person. Think about that. By teaching your kids to be better people, you're affirming that that is the right way to operate as a human being. And what you're doing is when you teach something to someone, you're reaffirming it to yourself. So my friends, I've got to say to you, you've got to understand, and I've got to say, one of my proudest moments in all of my life happened around 2010. So it's quite many years ago, 11 years ago. And I've got to say to you, I was at a Westfield shopping center, and Madeline, my oldest daughter at the time, would have been, 4 or 5. And she was playing in a play center, And there was a young girl. I think I've said this story before on the Sunday night rant. And the young girl obviously had Down syndrome. And she was being laughed at and picked on by other kids. And I remember saying to Madeline, Maddie, play with that girl there. And then what I noticed, for the next half hour, Maddie became best buddies in this play center with her. And even though other children were staring at him, even though other children were sort of teasing him, Madeline continued to actually play with the girl. And that's when I realized this kid's special. She was doing the right thing, even though the other kids made it look like she was uncool. That, my friends, I've seen her now as a 17-year-old girl. She's different to me. I always thought that money would get rid of every problem. I became ambitious and hungry. I was brought up in the Canterbury Bankstown area, in the Belmore-Lakemba area. So I always had this big gap on what I wanted in life. There was not much money in the Panos family back then. But I've got to say to you, as money's come on, I've realized money doesn't get rid of problems. It helps arrive at your problems with style, might give you a few more options. So I was quite different to the thinking that my daughter has, particularly Madeline now. From a young age, she cared about social justice. I remember when we were living in North Newtown on the back of Redfern, she was always curious why Aboriginals got treated differently. She never understood, Madeline never understood why someone would be treated differently due to their sexuality. So from a young age, she cared about social justice. And it won't surprise me if that's where her career takes her to. But I can say to you, my friends, that being a dad and trying to teach your kids to do the right things makes you a better person yourself. So let's talk about now. What are the things I try and instill to my own daughters? What are the things that I try and teach them? What are the lessons that a dysfunctional dad tries to attempt to instill into, probably the only 2 people in his life that he would take a bullet for? The first one is this, and I've got to tell you, parents, if you've got any kids, bring them in right now. I think it's important they hear what I'm about to say. Call them over. Say, come in. This wacko's got something important to say. Lesson number 1 is don't do anything physically you don't want to do just because you're scared to say no. I'll say that again. Don't do anything you don't physically want to do just because you're scared to say no. You have always got the power to say no, no matter what it is. And I've got to say to you, being temporarily awkward, saying no, is a lot better than having a lifetime of regret. That's the first lesson. And it doesn't matter who you are, a girl or guy, a young girl or guy out there. I want you to remember, you always have the power to say no. Remember that. The second law I instill into my daughters is this. Guys will pay more attention to you before sex than after sex. Think about that. Guys will pay more attention to you before sex than after sex. So don't ever, ever fall into that belief, young girls out there, that you need to sleep with them to get them or to keep them. Remember that. Rule number three is this. Train people how you want to be treated. You train people. You create the boundaries. You create the rules. You're the one that gives permission for a person to treat you in a certain way. So I've got to say to you, any young girl out there that's watching, this is what I push to my daughters. Define your deal breakers and then stick to them. You're the boss of your life. Remember that. You're the boss of your life. Yes, Chris, we need a Tom Panos edition of the 12 Rules for Life. That's what I'm going to do. I think I am going to write a book the more I'm thinking about it. Let's move on to rule number 4. Law number 4 I teach my girls. Don't send naked pictures to guys. Don't send naked pictures to guys. They're permanent records. And you don't know where they're going to end up. And if someone insists on asking for photos of your body, girls, can I say to you, send them a photo of another guy's penis. And number five, this is the 5th law. This is the 5th law, my friends. And I tell my daughters, I will love you unconditionally. I will love you unconditionally. Do you understand, girls? Your parents will love you unconditionally. And I tell my daughters, I don't care, whatever happens. You get arrested. You break the law. You take something you shouldn't take. I will love you unconditionally. But I'm warning you, don't get arrested. Don't break the law. And don't take anything you shouldn't. Happy Father's Day. Signing off. Good, it's on his way. Make sure you're not on the pajama slope if you're in the restricted part of Australia and New Zealand. And get ready. The comeback's bigger than the setback. The roaring 20s are coming back. We're going to have the best 5 years of our lives. Are you ready?